first second. Honestly, I think this is actually heading in a better direction than it was before. PZ was very concerned about industrial operations not having adequate land use controls, things like traffic, potentially having trucks and things like that come in for sawmill operations, or having an abattoir located in a site where maybe it's right next to a park and they may be doing some slaughter outside, which is perfectly reasonable agriculture, but right next to a park it might not be appropriate. You might have children out there playing, and screening might be an appropriate thing to have implemented. So I'm glad to see that taken out of there. So that makes us happy. One thing that is also removed from what was originally in this language was traffic controls and the size of agricultural stores. Previously it was limited to 1,000 square feet. I don't think it's very likely that we will see very huge agricultural stores open up. However, I mean, I can give an example of one in Vienna, and I actually shopped there. I love the store. It's the Potomac Vegetable Farm. It's right in Vienna. They have about 5 acres right there. They also have about 20 acres over in Loudoun County where they get their crops. And that store is probably, I'd say, 2/3 the size of the Buckland Market. That's my guess, just driving by looking at it. So you can operate, and I think they do sell some jarred stuff that they haven't made. So they are selling some other Virginia products. But you can operate a fairly large ag store off of a small scale operation, especially when you're talking about, vegetables, eggplants, tomatoes, things like that. So I think it's a bit inconsistent to have a requirement that the ag tourism buildings that have 12 events per year have to go through a Virginia Uniform Building Code requirement without having that same requirement on the agricultural structures, the agricultural stores. Because I think if you're basing that on safety of people coming into the store, which is what I assume the county is trying to do, is protect the safety of people coming into that store if there's a fire or an accident, or the structure of the building isn't appropriate, or if it's multiple levels, of course you have potential collapse, that sort of thing, that those people should be protected in an ag store just like they are in an ag tourism facility. Other than that, our other major concern at this point, well I shouldn't say major, our other concern at this point is exactly what Kim Johnson and Chuck had pointed out, which is how is the county going to monitor that 50%? I think it's a great requirement. I think that's good to have that 50%. I don't think it's a good idea to remove it because, as we were talking about, we then are basically saying you can have a convenience store or basically just a store in RA. I don't really see the point of that being a farm sales operation if you reduce that requirement from 50%. But I do think it should be somehow enforceable. So, yeah.
I would just clarify one thing real quick. The old ordinance, new buildings couldn't exceed 1,000 square feet. Existing buildings, unlimited amount of size. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Right.
But everything else.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that.
I do think it's good. Charge tax. Property now. But these are accessory.
They're accessory, exactly.
But I think you know the main endeavor is you file a schedule F1. What I think that indicates you're in farm.
Yeah, I see. That's the other thing, is that the accessory use 50% should come from the primary use of that land, which is farming, whatever that may be.
I'm with Bob, let's go with that one farm.
I also
So you're tying it back to a farm, what if the person's not, what if they're not filing that, and let's just dream a little bit, Chuck's independently wealthy, I own my little 10-acre house, but I like to, grow my tomatoes and sell my tomatoes out front, and I'm not filing tax income on a farm, but I'm making tomatoes and I'm growing tomatoes and I want to sell my tomatoes, or I'm growing berries and I want to make jam and sell the jam from my house. Just because I'm not filing a tax revenue, you're allowed to do agriculture on a property in this county that you don't have to be classified as a farm per taxes to do that. And I think that's what the point of this ordinance was trying to get at. Originally, it was was crafted so, you know, people in residential neighborhoods could even do this on smaller properties. It's been tweaked a little bit to get away from that, because that really isn't the intent, but it would still allow that in some areas, because there's, especially in the southern end of this county, there's some R1 pieces of property out there that are residential that are bad. I would classify them as farms, but, you know, that could lend to using this.
We can do that as a home occupation, what you said you would do.
But the idea of actually opening this up to being only in there.
This is only in the RA.
No, this is anywhere agriculture is allowed, because this is the previous one. And so anything where the agricultural use is taking place, this would be allowed.
I also, one of the things, Jim, that I heard from, this was from other farm, was the fact that they would have liked to have combined, like 3 farmers are adjacent to each other. They have one stand basically, and they just put all their stuff in there, that way they can all